Korea is sending troops to fight with Russia in Ukraine. Videos have emerged that appear to show North Korean soldiers training on Russian soil.
And beyond national borders, an injured North Korean soldier has reportedly been captured by Ukrainian troops in the battlefield.
This is said to be North Korean troops coming under fire in Kursk, dozens of figures scattering across the open ground, running, say the Ukrainians, back towards Russian lines.
North Korean troops have suffered catastrophic losses in Ukraine's Kursk region as Pyongyang's military adventure collapses into what intelligence analysts describe as a complete tactical failure. The situation on the ground has deteriorated rapidly, with military experts questioning whether Jong Un's gamble to send elite forces to fight alongside Russia has backfired spectacularly, creating a crisis that threatens the regime's carefully constructed image of invincibility. Military intelligence reports emerging from the front lines paint a devastating picture as Russian forces quietly distance themselves from their North Korean allies, who are being used as cannon fodder in suicidal human wave attacks. The deployment that Jong Un celebrated as the beginning of a new era of militant solidarity with Moscow has descended into a bloodbath that Pyongyang desperately tried to hide from its population, while frantically ordering troops to kill themselves rather than face the humiliation of capture. Share this with everyone you know, because North Korean troops fighting in Ukraine have been warned by their commanders that their families will be executed if they are captured alive, according to details revealed by a former North Korean soldier who defected to South Korea. If the soldiers are captured and tell information to the enemy, their families will be punished, go to a political prison camp, or worse, they will be executed in front of the people, North Korean defector and researcher Park Yu-sung said. Before we break down exactly what happened and why this matters so much, please make sure you subscribe to Daily Military Talks. We're giving you the real analysis. The scale of the disaster became clear when Britain's Ministry of Defense estimated that as of March 2025, Democratic People's Republic of Korea forces had highly likely sustained over 5,000 casualties in offensive combat operations against Ukrainian forces in the Russian oblast of Kursk, with approximately a third of those casualties killed in action. The MOD assessment revealed that the high casualty rate reflects the role North Korean troops are playing on the battlefield, leading high-risk frontline assault operations. Think about what this means. South Korean military and intelligence officials believe North Korea initially sent around 11,000 troops to Russia last year and dispatched an additional 3,000 between January and February, meaning nearly half of the entire North Korean deployment has been killed, wounded, or incapacitated in just months of combat. The South Korean Joint Chiefs of Staff confirmed on March 27th an approximate 4,000 North Korean casualties, suggesting the real number could be even higher. Ukrainian officials told South Korean lawmakers they can't understand why North Korean troops are attempting such aggressive breakthroughs despite the high number of casualties, asking, why are they so desperate? South Korean lawmaker Yoo Young-won of the People Power Party, who recently visited Ukraine, said North Korean troops were being used as cannon fodder, displaying a kind of blind, unthinking combat aggression. The methods have reportedly left North Korean troops vulnerable to Ukrainian artillery and drone strikes, leading them to be widely described as meat grinder tactics. Russian commanders are deliberately sacrificing North Korean units in frontal assaults while keeping Russian forces in reserve positions, a calculated strategy that preserves Russian lives at the expense of their supposed allies from Pyongyang. But here's what nobody expected. North Korean leader Jong Un has reportedly instructed North Korean troops deployed to Russia's war in Ukraine to kill themselves with grenades rather than risk capture, according to Daily NK on November 27th. Sources told the outlet that North Korean units now undergo twice-weekly political indoctrination sessions where commanders glorify soldiers who blew themselves up on the battlefield. These sessions promote the idea that such actions demonstrate loyalty to Kim and surpass the bravery of Russian troops fighting alongside them. Propaganda framing borrows heavily from religious-style martyrdom narratives, the source said, including the slogan, "If you give your life, you'll live forever." Another newly promoted slogan urges troops to learn from the warriors who blew themselves up. North Korean defector Ryu Seong-hyun, who defected to South Korea in 2019, said the threats meant that in reality very few North Korean soldiers had been captured as a result. Most soldiers will kill themselves before they're killed by the enemy. They cannot be taken prisoner, he explained, revealing the brutal calculus that Kim's regime has imposed on troops trapped in a foreign war. Then came the first major crack in the narrative. Ukrainian forces captured the first 2 North Korean soldiers to be taken alive by Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky, said in January. According to South Korean intelligence, the pair were part of North Korea's intelligence bureau, representing a catastrophic intelligence breach for Pyongyang. One of the soldiers reportedly said he wanted to stay in Ukraine when asked if he wanted to go home in a roughly 3-minute video released by Kyiv after the capture. This stunning admission broadcast to the world delivered a devastating blow to Kim's narrative that his troops are ideologically committed warriors defending justice against Ukrainian neo-Nazis. The situation escalated further when Ukrainian and American officials said North Korean troops were pulled from the front line due to losses, marking the first time Pyongyang was forced to acknowledge the catastrophic failure of its military deployment by withdrawing battered units from combat operations. But just days later, South Korea's spy agency claimed additional troops were sent to Russia's Kursk region, suggesting Jong Un is desperately trying to replace losses and prevent the complete collapse of North Korean combat effectiveness rather than admit defeat and bring surviving troops home. Think about what Russia is actually doing to its supposed allies. Russia's deepening reliance on foreign military manpower from North Korea signals its intent to chip away at Ukraine through attrition until it secures victory on its terms. With Putin unwilling to agree to a ceasefire absent Ukrainian surrender and Jong Un rewarded with advanced Russian technology, the alliance is transactional, brutal, and ultimately very repeatable. Trading future Russian for North Korean casualties will play well domestically. With North Korea absorbing the brunt of the fighting, Moscow can prolong its war effort at a fraction of the political cost. The heavily state-controlled Russian media can boast a sharp decline in domestic casualties even as offensive operations intensify, framing the war effort as both successful and sustainable. Just a few days before Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov's visit to North Korea in July 2025, North Korea pledged to triple its military contribution, sending an additional 25,000 to 30,000 troops to the front lines in Ukraine. This massive escalation came not from a position of strength, but from desperate need, Russia demanding more cannon fodder while Kim scrambles to maintain relevance in Moscow's war plans. Here's the reality on the ground. North Korean troops dispatched to Russia for combat in Ukraine in 2024 were still carrying out attacks targeting Ukraine's forces in border areas, according to Ukrainian media reports. Citing Ukraine's military intelligence agency HUAR, the Kyiv Independent reported that North Korean troops were stationed in Russia's Kursk region as of January, launching attacks on Ukrainian border provinces. The report said the North Korean soldiers were firing barrel artillery and multiple launch rocket systems targeting Ukrainian forces and conducting aerial and artillery reconnaissance. But critically, these units operate under complete Russian command, with Russian officers making all tactical decisions while treating North Korean personnel as disposable assets rather than valued partners. Around 3,000 trained soldiers have since returned to North Korea, with most of them passing on skills gained in war to the North Korean army, according to HUR. This represents less than a third of the original deployment, meaning the majority of North Korean forces remain trapped in Russia, either dead, wounded, or still committed to combat operations they cannot escape. Despite Jong Un's grandiose claims about liberating Kursk and defeating Ukrainian neo-Nazis, the tactical reality on the ground tells a very different story. By 11th March 2025, most of the Ukrainian forces appeared to have retreated as a result of a Russian counterattack, with Russian troops entering Sudzha, around which a shrinking pocket of territory still controlled by Ukraine had formed. On 22 June 2025, Ukrainian commander Syrskyi said that despite repeated insistence from Russia that the entire region had been recaptured, Ukrainian forces were still defending a small area of around 90 square kilometers in Kursk, with about 1,000 Russian troops attempting to drive them back. The implication is devastating. Even with massive North Korean reinforcements, Russian forces failed to completely dislodge a Ukrainian salient that intelligence had predicted would collapse within weeks. North Korean casualties have reached over 5,000 killed, wounded, and incapacitated. Britain's Ministry of Defense confirmed 1/3 were killed in action. South Korean intelligence reported 4,000 casualties, with higher numbers suspected. Nearly half the entire deployment has been eliminated in months of combat. Ukrainian officials cannot understand the desperate North Korean tactics. Why are they so desperate? South Korean lawmakers asked after visiting Ukraine. They display blind, unthinking combat aggression with cannon fodder tactics. Russian commanders are sacrificing North Korean units in frontal assaults while preserving Russian forces. Jong Un ordered troops to kill themselves with grenades rather than face capture. Twice weekly political indoctrination sessions glorify self-detonation. Propaganda slogans like "Give your life and you'll live forever" are repeated constantly. Troops are urged to learn from the warriors who blew themselves up in martyrdom narratives. The first two North Korean soldiers were captured alive in January. Both were Intelligence Bureau personnel representing a catastrophic breach for Pyongyang. One soldier said he wanted to stay in Ukraine and refused to return home. This delivered a devastating blow to Kim's warrior narrative and was broadcast worldwide. In February, North Korean troops were pulled from the front line due to heavy losses. This was the first acknowledgement of catastrophic failure. Days later, additional troops were sent to Kursk as desperate replacements to prevent complete collapse. Kim cannot admit defeat or bring surviving troops home. Russia is using North Korean manpower in an attrition strategy. They are trading Russian lives for North Korean casualties. Moscow is prolonging the war effort at a fraction of the political cost. State media is boasting about a sharp decline in domestic casualties while North Korea absorbs the brunt of the fighting. In July 2025, North Korea pledged to triple its military contribution. An additional 25,000 to 3,000 troops were sent to the front lines. This came from desperate need, not strength. Russia is demanding more cannon fodder while Kim scrambles to maintain relevance. Around 3,000 soldiers have returned to North Korea. This is less than a third of the original deployment. The majority remain trapped in Russia, either dead, wounded, or committed to inescapable combat operations. This represents a strategic humiliation for Kim's regime. Ukrainian forces are still holding a small area of around 90 square kilometers in Kursk. Despite massive North Korean reinforcements, Russian forces have failed to completely dislodge the Ukrainian salient. This tactical failure contradicts Kim's liberation claims. On 26 April 2025, following the end of the offensive, Russia's Chief of General Staff Valery Gerasimov finally confirmed North Korean involvement, stating soldiers and officers of the Korean People Army fulfilling combat tasks shoulder to shoulder with Russian forces. This belated acknowledgement came only after months of denials, suggesting Moscow initially wanted to distance itself from the North Korean deployment until propaganda value outweighed embarrassment. In September 2025, President Putin publicly thanked Kim Jong Un for the North Korean troops fighting against Ukraine. In December 2025, Kursk Oblast Governor Alexander Kinstein announced the city of Kursk will build a memorial to celebrate the North Korean soldiers who had been deployed to defend Kursk against Ukraine, suggesting Moscow is trying to honor the dead while quietly reducing their operational role. North Korean shock troops fought alongside Russian units from late 2024 until March 2025. Information that North Korean artillery has rejoined the conflict was provided by the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine on Wednesday. Per the reports, North Korean artillery units operating both howitzers and multiple launch rocket systems have been operating under Russian command in Kursk since January. Financial markets monitoring situation closely. Defense analysts questioning Kim's strategic judgment. Allied intelligence agencies tracking North Korean casualties, combat effectiveness declining rapidly. One thing is absolutely certain: North Korean troops have suffered over 5,000 casualties in catastrophic meat grinder tactics as Kim Jong Un desperately orders soldiers to kill themselves with grenades rather than face capture, while Russian forces cynically use Pyongyang elite units as expendable cannon fodder in human wave attacks that preserve Russian lives at expense of their supposed North Korean allies, with the first captured soldiers refusing to return home, delivering devastating propaganda blow to Kim warrior narrative, as intelligence reports reveal less than one-third of original deployment has returned to North Korea, meaning majority remain trapped in Russia, either dead, wounded, or committed to inescapable combat operations, representing complete strategic humiliation that threatens the regime's carefully constructed image of military invincibility. Our update continues. Stay tuned.